Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The nation mourns the loss of our 39th president, Jimmy Carter. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. President Carter was surrounded by family when he passed away Sunday in his home in Plains, Georgia. He was 100 years old. Brian Abel has more on how he's being honored.
From Georgia peanut farmer to president, Jimmy Carter's legacy spans 100 years. Leaders around the world remembering his remarkable life.
Jill and I lost a dear friend. What I find extraordinary about Jimmy Carter, though, is that millions of people all around the world, all over the world, feel they lost a friend as well.
Carter grew up in Plains, Georgia. He became governor and was elected president in 1976. And lost re-election to Republican Ronald Reagan in 1980. But it was his life post-presidency that laid the bricks for his legacy. He is remembered as a passionate humanitarian and a pioneer of human rights. He and his wife, Rosalind, founded the Carter Center to carry out their mission.
He was one of the first to turn his back on dictators who were not supporting human rights.
In 2002, Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his decades of work to establish peaceful solutions to international conflicts. He also spent decades volunteering for Habitat for Humanity.
A great global statesperson in the world's going to honor him, but he also was down home all about the state of Georgia.
Outside the Carter Presidential Center, mourners leaving flowers and notes. People in his hometown of Plains remembering him.
President Carter has been an international influence, but some of his greatest influence, he and Mrs. Carter's, has been right here in Plains, Georgia.
In Plains, Georgia, Brian Abel, KPBS News.
As you just heard, President Carter had a tremendous impact on the world. In a few minutes, we'll take a closer look at some of his humanitarian work here in California.
Well, we're going to be a little chilly out there tonight. Temperatures down into the mid-30s in places like Ramona. Near the coast, we're in the 40s to near 50 degrees. And there will be some concerns about fire danger increasing, mainly to our north. Up into especially areas on the north side of the LA basin with a Santa Ana wind event on Tuesday and Wednesday. Not a tremendously volatile setup like we had a few weeks ago, but still something to keep an eye on. We'll have some risk of fire danger to the south. We'll have details ahead.
It's been almost a year since heavy rains flooded parts of San Diego. One San Diego volunteer has restored about 24 homes. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says now he's battling bureaucracy to do the same for his mother-in-law.
79-year-old Margarita Perez uses a wheelchair. On January 22nd, a family member placed her on the kitchen counter to stay above rapidly rising floodwaters. Juan Chavez is her son-in-law.
Everything was completely lost.
They had to gut the house. Perez has dementia. She's staying with her daughter now, but it's not familiar.
She feels like a stranger at other people's houses.
Chavez has helped many flood survivors get back in their homes. Now, he's racing to do the same for Perez.
And I mean, we don't know how much longer we have with our mother-in-law, so we want her comfortable at home.
He says the permitting process can be confusing and costly.
All these old homes, they want them brought up to codes, up to 2024 codes, in which we're trying to do the best, but these are old homes, and there's only so much we could do.
A city spokesperson says they assigned a point person to guide survivors, waived permit review and inspection fees, and expedite most repair applications within a week. But not Chavez's. He replaced some rotting wood. The city considers that new construction. They can take months to review those plans. And the city wants blueprints, which can cost thousands of dollars. Chavez worries most neighbors needing significant repairs can't afford that.
We still have a lot of people that are still living in homes with mold that still need their houses mocked out.
Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Another high-profile politician is showing interest in the county supervisor seat that will soon be vacated. Today, Imperial Beach Mayor Paloma Aguirre announced she will run for the District 1 seat. She's emerged as a key figure in the ongoing sewage crisis at the border. Earlier this month, Supervisor Nora Vargas said she would not take the oath of office for a second term despite winning re-election. The Board of Supervisors will need to decide whether to appoint a temporary replacement or hold a special election.
Realistically, it's not going to be an appointment because the remaining supervisors are 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Why give away that power?
In recent days, another prominent Democrat also expressed interest. San Diego City Council member Vivian Moreno says she plans to run for the seat. A new parking law will take effect in California in the new year. KPBS reporter Scott Rodd says the city of San Diego will give drivers a 2-month grace period before issuing citations.
The new law will prohibit parking within 20 feet of intersections with marked or unmarked crosswalks. That's about 1.5 car lengths. The practice is called daylighting because it increases visibility at crosswalks.
So the goals of the law are to reduce traffic injuries and fatalities and crashes with pedestrians and cars.
Will Moore is with Circulate San Diego, a nonprofit that advocates for safe and sustainable transportation. He says California is playing catch up. Dozens of other states already have daylighting laws on the books.
California decided it needed to come in line with the rest of the country because California's traffic fatalities are 25% higher than the rest of the country.
Over the next 2 months, the city of San Diego will issue warnings to drivers who violate the new parking law. Police will start handing out $78 tickets on March 1st. And drivers will have to stay extra vigilant because the law will still be enforced at intersections without warning signs or red curbs. San Diego has 16,000 impacted intersections, but the city has only installed updated signs or painted curbs at 100 locations. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
The nation's airports and roadways will be crowded as we close out 2024, but the weather in some parts of the country could slow things down, and the famous New Year's celebration in New York's Times Square could see soggy skies. Karen Kafa has the latest.
2024 may be nearing its close, but at the nation's airports, the busy holiday travel period isn't over yet.
We just got all the bags checked, so hopefully security doesn't take too long.
The Transportation Security Administration expected Monday to be one of the busiest days of the holiday stretch, and it came after a weekend of severe weather in the southeastern U.S., including deadly storms in Texas, Mississippi, and North Carolina. Hundreds of flights within, into, or out of the U.S. were canceled on Sunday, and more than 11,000 flights were delayed. This traveler headed west from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, taking a Monday morning delay in stride.
Okay, if it's only an hour. If it ends up being 5 or 6 hours, then, you lose the day in Arizona. But you know what? It's vacation, so no complaints.
Meanwhile, in New York, preparations are underway for an expected 1 million New Year's Eve revelers in Times Square, including a test drop of the famous confetti on Sunday.
We're going to test it here today so we're ready to start 2025 strong.
And a warning from city officials Monday to expect rainy skies.
The lucky ones that are going to be up front and able to see the ball drop, dress warmly. We're expecting rain, so we're telling you to be prepared for the weather.
While the East will contend with rain to end 2024, parts of the Midwest could also see a messy New Year's Eve as some snow mixes with rain at times. Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and officials are reminding San Diegans not to drink and drive. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says several public transportation options will be available for free.
DUI is a choice, okay? Every incident that involves DUI is preventable.
Captain Reggie Williams is the commander of the San Diego area for the California Highway Patrol. He says the CHP will begin what's called a maximum enforcement period at 6 tomorrow night.
That basically includes additional officers out on patrol, and we're doing the normal stuff, enforcing all traffic laws with the emphasis on speeding, distracted driving, not wearing your seatbelt, things of that nature, as well as we will be aggressively seeking out and removing impaired drivers from the roadway.
The San Diego County Sheriff's Office says deputies have arrested nearly 1,000 people so far this year for impaired driving. They say legal and court fees from an arrest and conviction can cost more than $15,000. Williams says there are other costs, too.
Not only will it cost you monetarily, it will cost you your time. It will impact your ability to drive a vehicle. It impacts your ability to hold down a job. So everything is impacted when it comes to driving under the influence.
According to Caltrans, about 14% of fatal crashes throughout the year involve at least one driver under the influence of alcohol. That rate goes up to 42% on New Year's Eve.
Those numbers represent people who have been impacted by an impaired driver. And that includes the arrests, it includes the crashes, the injuries, and unfortunately, the untimely and tragic loss of life.
To help people get home safely, the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and the North County Transit District are offering free bus and trolley rides starting at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Service will extend later into the night on all trolley lines. The last Green Line trolley will leave the gas lamp around 2 a.m. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
A new year means making new resolutions sometimes. And as we wrap up the holiday season, you may feel like you have a debt hangover from all that spending. Jen Sullivan talks to a financial expert on how to boost your savings in 2025.
As we turn the page on a new year, financial experts say now is a great time to reevaluate your budget and add more money to your savings.
Create a budget, to review a budget, and to adjust the budget accordingly.
Mark Hamrick with Bankrate says the first step is to separate spending by want and need. Create a spreadsheet and calculate all housing expenses, whether that's a mortgage, rent, property taxes, and home insurance, utilities, food expenses, car payments, and phone, internet, cable costs. Experts recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a savings account. But in a recent Bankrate survey, 56% of Americans say they do not have enough emergency savings to cover 3 months worth of expenses. And over a third of people say they have more credit card debt than emergency savings. Hamrick says if you do have debt, paying it off is crucial.
We just got through the holiday spending season, and many people will be experiencing a New Year's debt hangover at a time when credit card interest rates remain close to record highs.
Hamrick suggests putting money into a high-yield savings account, which means you'll be making higher interest on that money.
You need to shop around for the best rate so that, you're really optimizing how you're putting the money into this account.
You can also look into a CD account. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
There's still no evidence of bird flu passing from person to person, but health experts warn that mutations of the virus could make it more likely to spread between humans. Mandy Gaither has the latest on the virus and why some health officials are sounding the alarm.
The CDC says genetic sampling from a patient in Louisiana recently hospitalized with the U.S.'s first severe case of H5N1 showed the virus likely mutated in the person, potentially allowing for it to be more easily spread to humans. But there's no evidence the virus has passed to anyone else.
It's only a matter of time before one mutation by chance will be able to be spread from human to human. We don't know when that will be, but certainly the train has already left the station.
The CDC has emphasized the risk to the general public has not changed and remains low. But some health experts say not enough is being done.
I've flashed back to January of 2020, and I'm hearing the same words come out of the CDC.
Like what?
Low risk of human-to-human transmission.
Now,
our agencies are making the same mistakes they made with COVID.
The CDC is pushing back against claims the U.S. isn't testing for the bird flu virus enough, saying comments about avian flu testing are out of date, misleading, and inaccurate. For now, health experts say people should be aware
that if they've handled dead birds or sick animals, especially cats, for example, they've ingested raw milk, and they have flu-like symptoms, headache, sore throat, shortness of breath, cough, that they let their providers know, because time is money. They can get antivirals like Tamiflu that can really make the difference between getting really sick and not getting sick that much.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The San Diego International Auto Show is back at the Convention Center. This year, new models from Cadillac, Ford, Toyota, Volkswagen, and of course many more are all on display. Hours are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. starting tomorrow. Our media partner, KGTV, was on the showroom floor and spoke to a father who took his sons to the car show for the first time.
We always wanted to come out to the car show, and we've missed it the last couple years, but it finally worked out timing-wise. It's great, yeah, we're really enjoying it. Again, it's their first time going to the car show. I haven't been to one in years, and so I'm really enjoying it, being out here and looking at all the new vehicles. The big difference is a lot of the different electrical vehicles and hybrids and stuff like that weren't out here the last time I was out.
Tickets are $18 for adults and $12 for children ages 7 through 12. Children under 6 get in free. The San Diego Auto Show runs through 6 p.m. on New Year's Day. The late President Jimmy Carter is best known for what he's done after his presidency. Susie Suh reports on his humanitarian work here in California.
This video, shot in 2007, shows Carter working with Habitat for Humanity LA, building houses in San Pedro as a young man in his 80s.
There are times when it gets so hot and you're working long hours. You know, at my age, I'm 83 years old, I get a little bit dizzy, so I just sit down for a while, drink some more, pick up juice or water or something like that.
President Carter was a humble man who could put his legacy aside and really not take himself so seriously, but he took the work that he was doing to help others very seriously.
Erin Rink is the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity Greater Los Angeles. She worked right alongside the Carters building these homes in San Pedro, and so did Aaron Atlas, who now owns his home, which he helped build as well.
You know, there aren't many people who can say, yeah, I worked with a former president in building my house, right?
I don't know how many people could say that, but I know I did.
In 1995, just a few years after the LA riots, former President Carter helped build 21 homes in Watts with Habitat for Humanity. 12 years later, he was back in LA to build more in San Pedro.
You know, Los Angeles always carried a special place in his heart. I think he had a lot of relationships here with people in the entertainment industry, but also with academic scholars and people that he had met throughout his years in politics, and so he really did favor coming to Los Angeles. He'll be greatly missed. I wish there were more like him.
As we move on through the middle of the holiday season, ramping up to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, Santa Ana winds will remain a concern, increasing a bit to our north, especially up into the northern part of the LA basin and some areas even to the north up into Ventura County as well. We're running cool for now, but we will turn warmer later this week. And we've been kind of resisting rain here in Southern California. The atmosphere has not been bringing us what we would like to see. We're doing fine up to the north into parts of the central and northern Sierra and in the northwestern U.S. for sure. But Southern California has been running dry here, and we're going to continue with that theme this week. Tonight down to 50 degrees here, and as we kick off the final day of 2024, hard to believe, New Year's Eve will take us to a high of 62 up into Oceanside, 61 into San Diego, 66 El Cajon. Borrego Springs around 70 degrees there in the heat, at least the spots that are often warmer. 70s pretty nice. This is a cooler pattern here, so even the warm spots not all that warm. There are snow showers up there into the central Rockies and into the Wasatch Mountains. Our friends skiing up that way during the holiday season, looking good. But again, with the high pressure system to the north, and we're going to have that strong offshore breeze. The Santa Ana winds are a concern, especially to the northwest of LA. We have some risk down into San Diego County, but the greatest threat is going to be farther to the north and northwest. Not a huge Santa Ana event. You can see gusts of 20 to 40 miles per hour, but there will be some higher risk gusts a little bit into the canyons and passes at times exceeding 40 miles per hour. Overall travel weather not looking all that bad. The wind is the only concern there, motivating that yellow for fair. A bit of a crosswind for some of the highways up to the north of LA, but we're in good shape in San Diego County. Some of the worst travel weather will involve rain for the northeast and snow into parts of the the Midwest on this New Year's Eve. So the coastal forecast certainly ramps up, about an 11-degree rise from Tuesday to Thursday, the 2nd of January. Then we cool back down into Saturday, and other areas here inland, we go from 66 to 79. It's a big rise, then right back to where we started come Saturday, so it's a big crescendo, and then we chill back down. There's some symmetry in this forecast here for the mountains as well, warming up a little bit and then cooling back down just a smidge. Friday, maybe the warmest day there, and into the deserts we go, where it's a bit more lopsided, with Friday being the warmest day, and then some cooling, some moderation into Saturday. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News. Happy New Year.
Here's another look at today's top stories. Nearly a year after heavy rains flooded parts of San Diego, a volunteer says he's fighting bureaucracy to rebuild homes. Juan Chavez says he's trying to rebuild a home for his mother-in-law, who has dementia, but the city's permitting process is delaying matters. He says the process is confusing and costly, and he worries those needing significant repairs can't afford it. Meanwhile, ahead of the upcoming rainy season, the city of San Diego is urging residents to report issues they see with the storm channels. Use the Get It Done app to do that. Drivers should be aware of a new state parking law, which goes into effect next year. The law prohibits parking within 20 feet of intersections with marked or unmarked crosswalks. That's about 1.5 car lengths. The city of San Diego says it'll give drivers a 2-month grace period before issuing citations. Starting March 1st, violations will result in a $78 ticket. MTS and the North County Transit District will provide free rides on New Year's Eve. Fares will be waived for riders after 6 p.m. Trolley, Sprinter, and Coaster service will also be extended. The last Coaster train will depart Santa Fe Depot at 1:20 a.m. The last Sprinter out of Escondido's Transit Center leaves at 1:30 a.m. And the last Sprinter will depart Oceanside Transit Center at 2:30 a.m. Life in shelters can be tough on animals waiting for their forever homes. That's why volunteers in the North County are using their special skills to help. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne has their story.
They cut, they stuff, and they sew. This group of volunteers meets every month to make the kennels at the animal shelters a little more comfortable.
We're in charge of kennel comforters. We make beds for the animals in the county shelters, mostly for kitties, but also for small dogs, like Chihuahuas, like to curl up in these little beds.
Carol Lee has been volunteering with the group for 10 years.
I just love doing this, chatting with friends and doing something worthwhile. We always say, if we can't take the animals home with us, we can at least give them a comfortable bed.
Kennel Comforters meets every month at the county animal shelter in Carlsbad. They form an assembly line that results in comfy beds for animals in the shelter.
And we do all different sizes so that they fit different cats, different dogs. And if somebody wanted a specific size to fit a kennel or something, we could do that.
The beds come in different sizes, patterns, and shapes, but they all have one thing in common.
And they were doing just an X or a circle. And my husband had been going through chemotherapy, and they gave him blankets that had a heart in the middle. So I started putting the heart in the middle. And then people said, maybe we like the heart in the middle. And then everybody started doing them.
The Kennel Comforter Heart travels to different animals in need throughout San Diego. All of the supplies used for the beds are donation-based.
Oh my gosh, without them, these guys would be on like a cold surface floor. They are providing them so much more than comfort.
Manny Salazar is the volunteer coordinator with the shelter.
We call them donuts, these little donut beds for the dogs. We give them to cats and to dogs. Also, our medical team will use them to restrain and to kind of comfort animals too. Cats love to be kind of held and squeezed in it. We call it a little like burrito, where we just kind of hold them. We use it to vaccinate sometimes.
He says the contribution from Kennel Comforters frees up funding that in turn support different needs for the animals in the shelter. And at a time when the shelter is experiencing high volumes of animals, every bit of help counts.
We work with hoarder cases. We work with relinquishments, with strays. And so a lot of times people think that all we do is bring in those types of animals and don't even realize that we too have an adoption center, and it's so important to get that word out.
But if adoption isn't a possibility, volunteering still makes a difference.
He's doing a fantastic job. And guess what? The best part of it is he's never done this before, and he tried. And it's all about trying. So there's no mistakes.
Volunteers with little or no sewing experience are welcome to make a difference in an animal's life.
It gives security to the animals. And guess what? If I can do that for one animal per month, guess what? I've been successful. Been really successful.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Kennel Comforters is accepting donations and volunteers. They meet the first Friday and Saturday of every month at the County Animal Shelter in Carlsbad. Coming up from the KPBS newsroom in a special evening edition, we take a deeper look at why shelters are overcrowded, what's being done about it, and how every one of us can help. From resources to help pet owners to volunteer opportunities and adoption, we're highlighting solutions, and we'll have that for you on New Year's Day, on Wednesday. And tomorrow, our KPBS Midday Edition producers revisit their favorite segments of 2024. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.